You're listening to the New Jazz Thing. My name is Vince Outlaw. San Diego's Nathan Hubbard opens another chapter in his quest for sound experiences with the first of five, yes, 5 concerts celebrating the release of the 5, yes, 5 volume Encinitas and Everything After recording. This coming January 26th is where he kicks it off at the Taoist Sanctuary here in San Diego. He'll be performing with the Nathan Hubbard Nevertheless Quintet, which includes some friends of Jazz 88, including Ellen Weller, J.P. Balmont, and more. Joining us this evening to chat about that is Nathan Hubbard, but first, let's check out the title track, Encinitas and Everything After, on the New Jazz Thing, Jazz 88.3. All right, folks.
Anytime now, there's like 5 more seconds of notation.
Jazz 88.3 in the New Jazz Thing. Music there from Nathan Hubbard and his new release, Encinitas and Everything After, the title track. And joining us this evening to chat about that is live in studio, Nathan Hubbard. Nathan, thanks for hanging out with us tonight on the New Jazz Thing.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
So, Encinitas and Everything After, we were just listening to, is volume 1 of this disc. But this is a work that spans 5 volumes. Are they all titled the same, or do you have different titles for each one?
It's Encinitas and Everything After, Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of a strange... the whole project kind of evolved slowly over many years, and excuse me, for a second, when I first started working on this, I figured maybe it would be like a double CD, and then it got to the point where there was more music than fit on CDs, and then I started thinking about doing multiple CDs and maybe a book of maps and pictures, and finally got to the point where it was so large, and actually my friend Curtis Potter is here with us, and he was talking about the idea of a USB stick release for a different project, and I realized that probably would have been great. But then I also started to realize if anybody handed me a USB stick with 5 hours of music, I don't think I would have listened to any of it.
It might go in the pile of USB.
I would just sit there and be like, I don't know what to do with that.
The pile of USB sticks.
So I decided maybe if I broke it apart into different volumes, it would make more sense and be a little bit easier to digest.
So we were just listening to the first tune on Volume 1, and if I understand correctly, there are lots of different ensembles that you worked with that are represented on these 1 through 5 volumes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, even just on Volume 1, you just heard a band called Everything After that I ran for a few years with Brad Dutz playing drums.
What years? Okay, so if those are the...
Well, no, it was probably 04 to 08. this was an interesting period. I was actually running 2 different bands concurrently with completely different lineups, but with the same name. It was sort of this experiment I had. Nobody got it, and it was completely, it was a strange thing. But there was one version with 2 horns, Gabriel Sunday and Ellen Weller, myself playing vibraphone, Scott Walton playing bass, and Brad Dutz. And then there was a couple gigs where Laurel Grinnell subbed for Brad Dutz. And then at the same time I was running a band that actually worked for a few more years than the woodwind version, with myself playing vibes, Rick Helzer on piano, Nina Deering, or Nina Flowers now, excuse me, on vocals, Justin Grinnell on bass, and Jeanette Kangas on drums. And actually both of those groups are on this recording, along with there's a remix of a track that was on an old Cosmologic record that was actually designed for this recording originally, and then we ended up putting it on a Cosmologic record.
So let's tell folks also kind of the release part of this, and we're going to chat more about the music, but the release is interesting also. You're scheduling these 5 volumes of Encinitas and Ever After to be released 1 through 5 in a set of 5 concerts, and that first concert is
this coming Sunday, January 26th, and we're doing, it's going to be an interesting thing. We're doing all 5 concerts at the Taoist Sanctuary, which is 4229 Park Boulevard. It's right there where El Cajon meets Park. Not a venue that's, in fact, I think there's only been 1 concert there. My friend Peter Kuhn put on a really interesting concert with Alex Klein and Hugh Reagan and a bunch of other people. But I was... you know, if anybody's followed my work, you know that I do a lot of DIY, self-produced concerts, creating spaces maybe that don't normally have music like that. So the idea was to find a space that I could do 5 concerts in 5 months at, and do a pretty wide range of music. I mean, the music you hear is, I never really liked the word jazz, but for lack of a better term, there's, you know, instrumental music, there's a lot of improvisation. Some of the other records get a little bit into more kind of chamber music. There's a lot of use of voice. Volume 4 has a lot of samples and very layered sound world. So I wanted some place where I could do all of these different things and not have to deal with, you know, how much the bar made and these kind of issues that sometimes you have. So that's the first one's coming up this Sunday, the 26th. It'll be a quintet of Ellen Weller, J.P. Beaumont, myself on vibraphone, Harley Magsino on bass, and Laurel Grinnell on drums. And we'll be doing, each month there'll be a set band that is going to somehow do all the music from that volume, which is sort of a challenge, because pretty much every track on each volume is a different group.
right.
So I've tried to figure out a way, and each of these volumes have been sort of divided in a way that they sort of make sense musically, where things fit together.
So let's talk quickly about that before we get into another tune. I want to play a little bit more music. But is there, so for 5 volumes and music that's been done over several years and with different groups, is there some overarching theme, or is it really just a compilation that you're trying to put in? What are you, if there's an overarching theme, what is it?
Well, what happened was in the late 90s, I was writing I had the group called Skeleton Key Orchestra, and I had written a couple pieces that were loosely about geographic locations in Encinitas, San Diego River. There was a piece called Sand Wind in the vast Pacific Ocean. And I have a pretty strong history with Encinitas. My great-grandparents moved there in the 20s. My grandfather started his company there in 1948. You know, my grandfather graduated from the first class of San Diego High. All my aunts and uncles went to San Diego in the 60s. I graduated from there in the 90s, along with my brother, my sister. Actually, I believe my older sister went there too. Anyways, so there's this long history, and my great-grandmother was a painter, and she has a lot of paintings of different spots. And the group that I used to run called Return to One did a lot of stuff where I wrote pieces based around those paintings. But then I started thinking about those spots, like the walled garden. We're going to hear that tune later. That's a spot in the Botanical Gardens. Or Indian Head Canyon, which is the Cosmologic track on this volume, is actually a canyon right there in Encinitas that, you know, when I was a teenager, we used to ride our bikes in it, and I still go hiking there with my kids now.
Mm.
So there's different. Some of them are geographic. Some of them are a bit about maybe a historical occurrence or something. Some of them are about just overall sort of maybe a zeitgeist of Encinitas from a different period and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be one of those guys that says, "Wow, I was so much better at this," and and I'm sure every generation previous to me says, "Well, it was so much better at this point."
Yeah, it's a spot in time.
Yeah, it's a spot in time, and these are very much spot in times.
Excellent.
What I've tried to do to give you sort of an idea of what's going on. For the recording, there's actually a PDF booklet that goes along with it, and each track has basic PDF which shows some pictures and maybe some pictures of the group that recorded it, but also some pictures about Encinitas, old family pictures, all sorts of stuff, to kind of give you just an overall, okay, I sort of get it, you know. I'm almost like standing at Swami's listening to the sea wind come in.
Excellent. Well, let's hear a little bit more music from this, Nathan. We talked about putting this second tune, Clock, Noticing the Few Moments Left. So you were also mentioning that on this disc is someone who's been on the New Jazz Thing before, a friend of Jazz 88, Ian Tordella. Tell us a little bit about this tune and what we're going to hear here at the beginning of it.
Oh, sure. This is a recording of a quintet that only appeared in the studio. Lee Elderton, the great saxophonist, currently living in Portland, Oregon, lived here for many years, played in a group with me called Return to One, and did everything from musical theater to swing bands and everything else in town. Ian Tordella has been around San Diego for the last few years, great player. Nazo Zakak on the Fender Rhodes. Justin Grinnell, who just put out a great new solo record that I think's been getting a little play around here.
We had him here on the show. Yeah, we had him here on the show.
Playing bass and myself playing drums. And this was this record. The volume 1 is interesting. A lot of the tunes are kind of shorter, a little bit more compact. So you hear a few things happening in the little excerpt we're going to hear.
Well, let's check it out. We're chatting with Nathan Hubbard. He is at the beginning of a release cycle of 5 volumes of Encinitas and everything after that include 5 shows also. And we're listening to music from Volume 1. This is Clock, Noticing the Few Moments Left. Sorry. So Nathan, do I need to announce the title of this? Open paren, Clock, Noticing the Few Moments Left, close paren, or not?
I think we'll just skip the
parents. All right, okay. You're listening. You're listening to the New Jazz Thing on Jazz 88.3.
I put out a CD with parenthesis around it. The title actually had parenthesis around it too, and nobody got that either. Everybody was like, "What? What is that title?" It's like, come on.
No, just be very literal. How do you say that? All right.
Pretty fun when we were driving around. Find Your Place. We were listening to the CD, and before we were going to your place, we were listening to the CD, and it turned out that he was like, "Oh, that place is there. That place is there. This is where he used to."
Oh.
So it was just like hearing the CD for the first time and seeing, getting a tour of places that Nate was taking.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved looking through the pictures for. I don't know if it was for each of the volumes or if it was each of the tunes.
Yeah, it's each of the tunes.
Each of the tunes.
So each of the volumes will have a PDF thing that looks like that.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, and it's totally set up. That whole thing was, and the layout. Each of them is going to look. It'll have different covers for each one, but it was supposed to look like a scrapbook. So there's kind of like there's a little bit of looking back, I guess, even after what I said.
That's all right. Yeah, no. You got to take a snap picture in time and then move forward, which you've had plenty of doing that too. So. There you go, up here.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
Visual proof that this
Onward.
thing happened.
Yeah, there's another like 10 sections of notation. Definitely cut it before the bass solo, because
Jazz 88.3 and the New Jazz Thing. That's music there from Nathan Hubbard's Encinitas and Everything After, Volume 1. Clock Noticing the Few Moments Left is the tune we were listening to there. And Nathan Hubbard's joining us this evening on the New Jazz Thing. Nathan, thanks for hanging out tonight.
thanks for having me, man.
So let's remind folks one more time, and we'll do it again at the end,
Oh, sure.
where they can hear you play. And are the new discs going to be available?
Yeah, the discs are here. It's also available if you are super eco-friendly and just go for the download. It's up on a website called Bandcamp, nathanhubbard.bandcamp.com. And you can get high quality FLAC or high quality waves or AIFFs, and then there's also digital copies. There'll be a release concert this Sunday, January 26th, 8 o'clock, $5, all ages, at the Taoist Sanctuary, 4229 Park Boulevard, right where El Cajon meets Park Boulevard. And we'll be doing all of the music from Volume 1 and probably 1 or 2, if not 3 tunes from some of the later volumes.
Excellent. So, Nathan, with a collection this big and spanning all of these years, one of my first questions was, okay, so why now? Why was it time to either pull the plug on more, or what was it? What made you want to do this now and get it out now?
It's true. I could have worked on it for the rest of my life.
Mm.
I think, I promised my wife it would be done when I was 30, and that was 7 years ago. So that totally didn't work. I think it was, you remember, a few years, or it's been a year and a half now we've been back, but we were in Arizona for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved out there, I realized, you know what? At that point, I didn't know if we were coming back, if we were going to spend 10 years in Arizona, if we were going to move to Berlin after that, or whatever. It was very open in the air. And I figured, you know what, this might be the time to call it and finish up a couple things. Actually, what's interesting is the entire 5-volume thing, the very last track, is a double quartet with me in the middle. There's 2 keyboards, 2 guitars, 2 basses, and 2 drums. And one of the quartets is all San Diego. Nazo Zakak, Nick Toko, Jesse Charno, Harley Maxino, and then the other quartet is all Arizona.
Okay.
And it's all people that I was playing with in Arizona: Branson Nijame, Jerome Salazar,
Right.
Jacob Beery, these guys, Jerome Loxman. Sorry, Jacob Loxman. Sorry, Jake. Sorry, Jake. So that, for me, that was kind of like the finishing point. So I figured, I could milk it for a couple of years, but maybe it's time to put a cap in it and call it good night and
Excellent.
say, okay, enough.
So the music that we were listening to there, so from my standpoint, that music was very accessible. Really, beautiful written pieces, and you have a vast repertoire of music that spans, very adventurous, experimental,
Sure.
to something that seems almost through composed, and there was very accessible, as I said there. So one is, since we don't have time to listen to all 5 volumes, but you can give us a preview. Do they encompass all of that breadth of your work, or are they more like what we were hearing here on Volume 1?
I think a large majority of this music fits into. There's a high level of melodicism. There's definitely there's some of the free blowing music. I'm a staunch advocate of very open forms and improvisation, extended sound worlds, and that doesn't completely fill my world. I've always been a guy that writes melodies and writes pieces. I think I've always been one of those persons that tries to put those different things together. If it's completely harsh noise, that's great, and I'm totally for that. But after a while, my ear gets a little tired of it. And if it's also completely melodic music and stuff, I always want different things put together. Like you're cooking and you've got bitter melon and tofu and some ginger and all these different flavors. You know, I want a broader palette. Most of this, I would say, most of this fits into that. I think Chris Herzog once said my modal compositions. So there is a little bit of truth to that. Volume 4 gets a little bit more noisy. My father is a sewer contractor, and there's a piece that's all based around samples of the yard. There's trucks and grinders and stuff. There's also Curtis was just reminding me, there's a piece that's sort of a look back at my high school years in the marching band. So I actually wrote a fake fight song for San Diego High. I'm actually starting a petition to get it
to make it the official?
To make it the official fight song. So things get a little weird in Volume 4, but I'm totally happy with that. There's some great stuff on that. But yeah, there's a high level of melodic writing. There's a lot of through composed stuff. Occasionally you hear the kind of just open blowing tunes that you often hear in the jazz world. I've always been, even in, if it's more traditional quartet, quintet, I've always been a guy that wants to write a little bit more notation and write things a little bit more through composed.
Excellent.
So
then let's just chat then. I got two more things that I want to get into. We last chatted, I was looking back in 2012, and I think you were still in Arizona at that time.
For this middle ground.
Right, exactly.
Race.
And you know, as we've heard, you grew up here in San Diego. We're chatting with Nathan Hubbard, by the way. And you grew up here in San Diego County, and then you moved to Arizona, and then you came back. What was the impetus for coming back to San Diego?
Employment.
Really?
Same thing. We moved out to Arizona for some employment and got a job offer to come back, and we're back. Had a great time in Arizona. Met some people that I consider some of my closest friends. People I'm still playing with. Actually, one of the bass players I was playing with out there is now living in La Jolla. Nice. So we've managed to keep playing, and I'm going out there next month to play with those guys, and I've been trying to get them out here as much, and we've been going. This is a band called The Scorpion Decides I'm talking about mostly, and we made it up to Oakland, to the Duende space, the new space that Rocco Smazzi's got, and played Blue Whale and all these places. So we've been creating this thing. It's a little bit harder. We're in that long distance relationship point, so we don't get to play. We used to get together every Sunday and play, and that was great, and now we don't get to do that. And then there's also a bunch of other people that I want to get out there more. Ted Sistrunk, who grew up with Tony Malaby and Angie Sanchez and all those people. I got to play with him and Brian Ruth and so many great players out there. So I've been trying to get out there as much as I can and then do stuff here and then get some of those people to come out here, which is a nice challenge. But it's actually been really nice. I've been enjoying the differences in the different communities and
So then just tell us quickly, so we're going to recap kind of the next 5 months of shows in just a second again. But are there other things, now that you've got this out, down on disc, and you kind of got a plan for these, what other things are you working on, playing, what are you doing?
Honestly, I am still finishing things. There's things on Volume 2 that are not done.
Right.
So this is usually how I work, is I set a deadline, and that's a good way to get it done. Otherwise, it'll never get done. Volume 3 is done. Volume 4 and Volume 5 have a couple things, and there's a couple little things we need to do on Volume 2. So we're still working on that. Curtis Glatter, who's sitting next to me, is in town, and we just mastered a record that we've been working on for about 6 years.
Right.
New Glatter Hubbard, which is great, really thick samples and percussion, all sorts of glorious sound worlds. August 11 put out 4 records last year and has 2, if not 3, that I would like to put out this year. One, a song cycle that was written to be recorded around a campfire. It's all kind of sounds like a Ma Rainey record or something, and then a few other things that we're working on. So there's quite a few things. I'm still I'm going out to Arizona. We have the Scorpion Decides has a new EP that should come out. Double fingers crossed in February. There's also a improvised drum comp called the title? Working Hard to Make Your Life Easier, Volume 1.
Volume 1.
Which features drummers from the East Coast, from Seattle, from Los Angeles, from Italy, all free improv drummers doing solo drum pieces.
Wow.
So that'll be great, and that's going to come out on cassette. And I'm sure there's 6 other things that I'm forgetting about. Oh, probably most importantly, I have a son coming early May.
Ah, congratulations.
That is all of that other stuff is amazing, but the
that
son
would be
is
the
perhaps-
3rd, right?
That would be the 3rd.
Wow,
Yes.
okay.
So that's probably the biggest thing that's happening in the next 6 months.
Excellent. Well, okay, that sounds like enough.
Probably is enough.
So tell folks where you're going to be playing this music
Okay.
this coming week.
So this week, January 26th, that's Sunday night, 8 o'clock, $5, all ages at the Taoist Sanctuary, 4229 Park Boulevard, right where El Cajon meets Park. And we will also be there the last Sunday of every month going into May. Different group for each month to celebrate the release of each volume as we go down through the months and down through the volumes.
So we have some links on the Jazz 88 blog to Nathan's bio and his site about this. We'll try to get a link in there about the calendar too, so you can keep up with it there and find out there. Tell folks where you are on the internets so they can hook up to.
Facebook, of course, is easy. YouTube and my own website can be found under Castor and Pollux Music.
Mhm.
Or the easiest is just to Google Nathan Hubbard. I am not the CEO of Ticketmaster. I am the avant drummer who comes up second in the Google search.
Excellent. Yeah, Nathan Hubbard drums. Actually,
Yeah, that's probably the best way.
That's the best way to do it. Nathan Hubbard.
Although
drums.
actually the CEO of Ticketmaster is a drummer.
That's
well.
right.
He's a musician.
I saw that too. So.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan, fantastic to have you here and to join us this evening. And congratulations on getting this Volume 1 out. Good luck with getting the rest of them finished and out, and we really appreciate you bringing it by. We're going to end with Walled Garden. You told us this was about a place up at the Botanical Gardens up in Encinitas.
Yes, which it has a new name, but it's a small garden. I was actually supposed to be married in this garden, but that got shifted because we had too many guests. But Michael Clayman actually did get married, the great photographer downtown in the Walled Garden. This was actually a piece that was written in 93, if not 92, and had lyrics written later on. Myself on the vibraphone, Rick Helzer on the piano, Justin Grinnell on the bass, Jeanette Kangas on the drums, and Nina Flowers on the vocals.
Great. Well, good luck, Nathan, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight on the New
Thanks so
Jazz
much
Thing.
for having us.
Nathan Hubbard here on the New Jazz Thing, and music here from Encinitas and Everything After Volume 1. It's called Walled Garden on the New Jazz Thing, Jazz 88.3. Excellent.
Thanks so much, Vince.
Uh-huh.